Hello YouTube, Greg here. Long time no see. I'm out here working in my garage/shop. And this is my former award-winning 1996 Mustang SVT Cobra with the limited edition Mystic paint. And I know she's seen better days, but her and her younger brother are now out here in the garage. So I'm going to relaunch my business soon, but I think I'm going to change the name from Sonic Expressions to Audio Logic. So all this stuff's going to be coming off the car. Plus you can see from sitting out in the sun neglected, the signage kind of got damaged anyways. So, as well as the window tints messed up, as you can kind of see there. So the car is pretty much gutted right now. I'm just retooling everything. About the only thing I'm not going to change is anything in the door panel. I've still got my mid bass in there. Still sounds great. The kick panels I'm going to be changing to a proprietary 4-inch mid-range, keeping the same tweeters, but this time I'm going to go all active. So I'll still be doing a kick panel setup. And the old school Clarion DRX 9255 deck will be going back in. Most likely I'll be using an audio control DSP this time instead of my rack mount stuff, which you can kind of see over there. I had previously converted an old Alesis MEQ 230 and used Mark Eldridge actually converted a Rain AC23 crossover. Both of those were in here, but I need a little more manipulation in the time frequency domain, as you would say. And one reason for that is what my good friend Robert Gomez taught me is a term mid-bass coupling, where I'm going to use another mid-bass to augment the ones in the doors, which are 6.5s. Again, they sound great, but I like a lot of mid-bass. That the rear deck, as you can see, has been all cut out basically from the different systems over the years. And I'm probably going to put either a 6 or an 8-inch mid-bass back here as well. And what I want to do is actually time align that, delay it a lot less, or if at all, than the mid-basses in the doors. Even though they'll only be playing around 250, 300 hertz tops, I still want to delay it a little bit. In fact, the ones in the back might play a little bit lower. You know, the high frequency cutoff might be a little higher than the ones in the doors. I'll kind of play with all that. But again, a DSP will let me do that a lot easier. I can just tweak and make changes a lot easier. Speaking of my good friend Robert, when I went away, as you know, I did move across the country. And basically, this is a box, an idea he had. We kind of worked together where I was going to use 2 of my kind of SQ subs, the 12-inch model, and we were going to fire those into the rear deck. Another reason it was kind of cut out a little more. And basically the idea was a board would go here up and line up with a hole in the deck, which you can kind of see here, and fire. Basically that would be the primary enclosure, because if you look, these are very small enclosures. And there are holes in the side. We were going to actually mold, use a secondary enclosure, so it would kind of work like a pseudo bandpass box to get like a little higher output around 40, 50 hertz. But we kind of scrapped that idea. I think what I'm going to do now is just do a board straight across, and it'll still be, the primary enclosure would be here, and that's going to fire into the deck. I might dampen it with a little bit of fiberglass insulation or something, kind of a pseudo aperiodic type arrangement. We'll see if it needs it. If it's peaky or boomy, I'll just kind of play with that. That's easy to tune out, so kind of mechanical tuning for that. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and use this box. It was kind of a throwaway idea for him. Unfortunately, I put a little scratch. This is real carbon fiber, by the way. He's a craftsman. I mean, he's a master installer. He's the best installer I've ever met. And I was fortunate enough to get to be good friends with him. Unfortunately, I moved across the country. That's one of the unfortunate things. Now we're about, I don't know, 2,700 miles apart or whatever it is, 2,000, I don't know. Anyways, that there were little imperfections, that he's a perfectionist and he didn't like it, that there were little ripples or bubbles got in it, because he just threw this together with basically scrap material that he had laying around, because it was just kind of a test box. But you know what? I'm going to run with it. And I can hide all that, because what I'm going to do, the board that goes up, I do want to highlight this because it's beautiful. The carbon fiber is absolutely beautiful in this, and I do want to showcase my subwoofers. So I'm probably going to put just a little acrylic window in the middle or somewhere. I might even have it etched with a logo. I don't know. But I'm going to do some LEDs hidden away. And basically it'll be where you can just see the parts I want you to see. So amplification, I'm still going old school. I swear by those. I've got a whole bunch of amps, but of course I don't have the exact one I want to use. Hey, check this out, a little off topic. Here's my first amplifier I got when I was in high school. Yeah, I'm going to date myself. This was around 1988, a Kenwood KAC 920. This amp was in my first real car, a 1989 Mustang LX 5.0. Man, that was a fun car. I had that amp on the two Collins 10-inch tube subwoofers, kind of like bazooka knockoffs. And basically those, I had that for a couple years. And man, that brings back the good old days. Showing what I knew about sound. Yes, like everyone else, I am a confirmed audiophile now. But I did start out as a bass head, like everyone does. And man, I slammed around the streets of Long Beach in that thing for years. And I had a Unique, some no-name Chinese amp on the stock highs, the stock 6 speakers that were garbage in that car. But you know what? I had fun with it. And then over the years, I upgraded, got into Orion. I've got a couple 225 old Moon and Stars logo amps. I'll kind of get one out here and show it to you just a second. Alrighty. So we got her out on the bench here, and we'll start out with a gut shot. I have two of these. There's another one under it that has its bottom plate. This one does not have the bottom plate. This was in a custom system. I forgot who I even got this one from. I've probably had this one for 20 years or so. And it was in a competition vehicle. Both of them were. And they had a custom amp rack with fans, which was customary back in the day, because these things will push 0.5 ohm stereo, 1 ohm mono very easily. Of course, like all old school amps, these were considerably underrated. That, you know, they're rated around 25 watts per channel. You can check out Big D Wiz and other guys that have the SMD amp dyno, which is an awesome tool. And they do, I think that was the next model, the Digital Reference, which is the model after this that came out, I think, in the early 90s. But essentially, it's the same internals, just with a bridging module built in. To bridge these old school first generation Orions, you actually need an external bridging module, the 400 BDG, and it was a bridging module. Essentially what it did, it just inverted one of the inputs, so you could run, you know, the positive off one channel and the negative off the other, and it would double. It would kind of couple the amps together, which is all you're doing when you bridge an amp. Anyways, so then these things consistently put out around 40-50 watts into 4 ohms, if not more. In dynamic tests, even more than that. But it's essentially a 400 watt amp if you load it down, which these won't be in this system, but I just kind of want to show off. These are my pride and joy. I absolutely swear by Orion. I always have. See, it's a first gen 225 HCCA. And again, I do have another one sitting right under it. So I'll put this one back. Okay, that's back. And then the other 225, the one that has the end plate, is right there. You can kind of see it in the plastic wrap. I really don't want to take it all out, but trust me, it's there. And the other Orions I have are a couple. I'm fortunate enough to own 2 of these beasts. The old 2250SX. It's essentially about a 1,000 watt amplifier. And if you guys really want to see it, I'll take it out. Just let me know in the comments. But having said all that, the amps that will be going in here, essentially it's the same setup that I had back when I won the Iasca Regionals back in 2010. It's going to be a different speaker configuration and a little bit different model of amplifier and setup, but essentially it's still going to be the same brand. I'm going to run with Precision Power. Again, old school amps. My 212s will be bridged on a 2050M. Oh, this is the 4200. if I can, I want to get another one of these that I'll run one of them, all 4 channels. They're all going to be in stereo, no bridging or any trickery done with those. And essentially I'll run the 2 mid basses in the door, as well as the 2 mid basses, whatever I put in the rear. And that'll run off one of the 4200s. Again, it's going to be all active, no passive crossovers, so I have a lot more adjustment when I get that crossover. Then the kick panels with the little 4-inch and the tweeter, I'm going to run all active. I wouldn't mind running a 4100, a smaller 4-channel amp, but those are really hard to find. There is 4200s, for whatever reason, are easier to find. For aesthetics, I'd really like to stay with the art series that Miss Carol Hall Young did the artwork. If you want to find out more about that, there's plenty of videos on YouTube talking about that, where essentially she did this beautiful pastel artwork. And of course, these were screened in a white finish instead of the standard black and red. But I have that for the highs. I have a little Promos 25 that I basically did trades back in the day with people to end up with that. I don't remember what I was going to do with that. I'm probably not even going to use this amp. So if you know anyone that wants one of those, it's essentially a 1 ohm stereo or 2 ohms bridge that puts out around 200 watts RMS. Well, rated if you give it enough voltage. I don't believe the Promos's were regulated. So if you put like 13 or 14 volts, you could get a little more power. I don't really remember though. But anyways, I mean, again, they're underrated. They'll put out a lot more than that. But basically they're guaranteed to put 200 watts into a loaded down configuration. So if you know anyone that wants one of those, I could probably let that go. And then the one I'm going to use, which I used on bass before, is the big brother of that one, the 2050. It's the same chassis as the 4200, so it matches really well. But it's basically a Promos 2050 or Promos 50, whatever. Yeah. So anyways, I don't know if you can see that, but that's my little 2050. So anyways, and that one's, it's the same thing. It's just 400 watts. And I am going to bridge that down to get the maximum power to 2 ohms mono. Unlike the first gen Orions, the Precision Power, you can bridge them just by wiring. There might be a bridge switch, I don't remember. But you don't have to do any external modules to flip the inputs or anything. That they were from the factory, you could bridge them without any external stuff, so that's good. So anyways, that'll be on my 212s, and this will be on the mid bass. And I do have a little, oh, check this out, this is cool. Oh no, this is the amp. I have a little 2030, or 2060 is it? What is it? 2025 AM, and it matches the Promos's. It's a little 50 watt amp. If I could actually find another one of these, I'd just run those to the kick panels. 2 separate amps, that'd be fine, but those are hard to find. That one is in mint shape because I've never used it. It's like these have little scratches, which when I do the amp rack, you won't even see those anyway. But this one's mint. I mean, it's beautiful. So I wouldn't mind using that. So anyways, and I have little amp spacers. I think they're in this box. That's CD changer stuff. I don't remember, but I have some amp spacers here that they actually, oh, here we go. These are really cool. That you can run, if you use right angle RCAs, you can actually link the amps together where it looks like one big amp. I'll kind of show you. Kind of something like that. They look really cool. So I'll be definitely making use of those. A little bit of custom, yeah, just a little bit of kind of custom stuff like that, you know, looks nice. So I want to talk a little bit about the car, that those that might cringe when, you know, oh my God, he cut out the rear deck, or it's lowered, it's got an aftermarket suspension, the kick panels are cut up. Folks, just so you know, this car, actually both of these cars, but especially this one, these were bought used. I got this back in, I don't know, 2004 or so, and it was trashed. The wheels are all curved up. You can kind of see. That's how I got it. This thing has, the struts were leaking, the springs were shot, the interior was all cut up, the rear deck had already had holes cut for some crappy 6x9s, if I remember. So I ripped all that out, and basically, I'd like to think all the things I did were kind of tasteful, not to detract from the original car, but essentially, this was not mint when I got it. If it would have been, I never would have changed anything. I would have left it factory. But there's a really cool guy on YouTube, Shelby Flyer. He has my dream garage. He's got one of these, a Chrome. He's actually got two of them. He's got a newer Shelby Mustang, which I'm not as much into. He's got a 93 Cobra. He's got, all these cool cars, and they all have like 10 miles on them or 100 miles. So they're all factory down to the oil filters. So yeah, I mean, if you have a museum collection, that's cool. But these are far from that. And I haven't driven them much in the last few years, but these are built to where I could drive it any time and not worry about putting miles on it. This one had about 60,000 when I bought it. It now has about 80. This one had about, 50. It has under 60 because I barely drive this. But anyways, yeah, that's the mods I didn't really change it much from where it was already changed. This does have a factory, it's not a factory suspension by any means. Like I said, the factory components were worn out when I got it. And if you know, especially back in '96, these had the stock, I believe they had the stock GT springs, so it had the 10-mile up ride height. So I did drop it. I'd like to think I did it in a nice way, that I didn't just cut the coils. This is a full suspension system in this car. It's, if you know the company Maximum Motorsports, that's kind of who I swear by on these old Mustangs. And it's the Maximum Motorsports road and track system. So that's a full front to back system. And it has their springs. I believe it's H&R Springs is who they used. I don't remember. But anyway, it has some good springs front and back. Nice progressive rate. So it's a good ride quality. But when you get on it, you can it'll dig in the turns and everything. And custom valved Bilstein struts and shocks all around. It's got the panhard bar, dual subframe connectors front and back, all that stuff, strut tower brace. It does not have the K-member, and I didn't go coilover. So that's the two things this car doesn't have. It doesn't have a custom K-member in the front, and it doesn't have the coilovers, but everything under that it pretty much has. So, I mean, it handles like it's on rails. Good enough for me for sure, especially with a stock engine down to the air silencer. I may change some of that eventually, but for now it's been good, so I don't really want to mess with it. This one's plenty fast, so whatever. But yeah, so yes, I made changes and I did a little bit of cutting, but really it was far from factory when I got it. And anything I did, you could technically weld back in and fix, which originally I was going to do, but the factory mock systems, Mach 460, whatever, as everyone knows, are pretty much garbage in these anyway. So anyways, yeah, so that's why it's cut up. So it's not really cut that much. There's not really that much missing out of here. It's not as bad as it looks. But anyways, yeah, and that's going to be reinforced. I'm going to put brackets and everything in here when I build in all this. So it's going to be nice and clean, folks. So it's not going to be a rattle trap or, damaged integrity, structural integrity or anything like that. So let me show you the 12s that are going to go in here. These are my SQ subs. I mean, they get down and they can get plenty loud. The efficiency's, I believe, 92 dB. So again, they're not going to be getting crazy power. They're just standard 4-ohm subs that they're going to be, basically, they'll handle about 350, 400 watts continuous, no problem. Dynamically, they'll do about 600 before you really start worrying about frying stuff. And any speaker, I mean, you can't put like 1,000 watts to a tweeter, but folks, if you put clean power to a speaker, generally you're not going to blow it, especially subwoofers. If you start sending clipped signals, and I'll get into that a little bit if you guys want to see it later on when I get to tuning this car, that I'll show how I use an oscilloscope and everything to actually see the levels to make sure you have a nice clean sine wave, where it's not clipped. So that's what distortion looks like. It's a clipped signal. And that's how you damage speakers. that distortion will blow stuff out, no problem. And that's how you fry amps and stuff too. So anyways, alrighty, I've talked enough. So this is, again, the first of hopefully many updates. Let me know if you guys want to see this kind of stuff. And this isn't going to be a crazy system. Continuous power, it's probably going to be around 800 watts RMS, which by today's standards, that's not that much. So again, this is more of an SQ setup. It's not going to be crazy SPL, although hopefully it'll do about 135 when all's said and done, you know, around 40 hertz. So I mean, it'll definitely get down if you want it to, but it's not going to be a ground pounder by any means. So, alrighty. So I don't know what channels I'm going to set up. I'm obviously going to set up an Audio Logic channel. Who knows? I might even stay with the Sonic Expressions name. Let me know in the comments what you think. Is Audio Logic a better name? Sonic Expressions over the years just sounds kind of cheesy, but I'm proud of my accomplishments I did. I didn't really sell much because I didn't really market it right. But, I mean, I did win, and eventually I'll have my trophies out here somewhere. I just got to find room for them. As you can see, I'm kind of cramped. I'm blessed to have a beautiful 2-car garage, a real 2-car where you can actually get 2 cars in it. But out here they build things a little different. You get more room. I do have an external garage. It's a shop currently over there. But there's my daily driver, my little 2014 show Taurus, nice little car. And my mom's little my mom's little Prius that I've been borrowing to get around. But anyways, yeah, that's an even bigger garage, but that's where all my arcade and pinball machines are currently. So they're not really set up. They're just kind of sitting there in storage. I don't know what I'm going to do with all that. I'm going to keep them and set them up somewhere, probably out there, which means I'm stuck working in here. So, but there's enough room. I mean, I got a little table saw out here. Nothing fancy, but it definitely gets the job done. And I'll probably just back out whatever car I'm not working on when I get to work. And I can actually have room to open up the doors, take out all the interior, you know, that kind of stuff to actually build it up. And you can kind of see here, again, I'll show you those old rack mount things. That was fun using Recording Studio or Pro Sound stuff back in the day. But yeah, this is the one I personally converted. It was really easy. These are already plus minus 12 volts from the factory, so you just get a DC-DC converter, wire it up in there with protection and everything. So yeah, this is actually, if anyone wants this, I could let this go too for a decent price. Let me know. It actually sounded great. Quality control. Wow, 97. Jeez, this is old school for sure, but it worked great. But again, I want a little more tunability with a laptop. I'm going to come into the new millennium with my technology finally. So, especially running those, make sure stuff don't fall. Running those dual mid basses. I'm really excited about trying that idea. So I'll need more time alignment capability. This is the old Rain AC23 that Mark Eldridge converted. Little interesting fun fact, the crossover, the lowest you could cross over the subs, now what was this? I remember it was too high. It was around 70 hertz. And there's a long story. I'm not going to trash the shop. Basically, the shop that did the original trunk, because I needed it done kind of quick to start competing, they pretty much botched the install. That's why I got mad and ripped it all out. I had my amps. There was a real nice looking little, everything was vinyl covered in the trunk. And I'll look for some pictures and put them in here in the video. You can see how it was set up. I had a 12-inch sub, my bigger 12, which I have one in a box over here, but basically I'm not going to take that out. But it was the SPL sub, but it worked really well with an aperiodic setup. I had a Auto Sound, no, I'm sorry, it's one of Mark Eldridge's aperiodic pads. Let me show you, I still have it. But what they did, instead of bolting it down, they actually glued it and glued the cone of the woofer to the deck, like to the board they had in there. So here's a little processor you use. It basically restores some of the bass or something like that, and that's the model of woofer you need to use with this setup, and that matched that sub really well. It's amazing I won as much as I did with that car, because honestly, the sub sounded like crap. I mean, literally, that if you can picture it, half of the woofer cone had that industrial RTV adhesive, that goopy stuff that the factory uses, that black, gooey, hard stuff. And it was literally half of the cone was glued to itself, the foam surround, so only half of the woofer was even moving. I was wondering why my bass never sounded right. I was blaming it on the AP setup, aperiodic. No, it was just they glued the freaking woofer to the car, so there you go. See, obviously I wasn't too happy with them, but anyways, again, it's all water under the bridge now, because now this setup's going to be much better anyways. So yeah, I'm going to use the different 12s in this car too, because really that wasn't enough power for that subwoofer anyway. Those other subs need at least about 500-600 watts to really come on, and they're more an SPL. They sound great, and you could definitely do SQ with them. But they'll get, they really get down and start hitting hard. So you need a pretty. It still would have worked great with the AP setup, but it would have needed a lot more power to really drive. Like those beast amplifiers, one of those on it would probably be a lot better. But they're dual 4-ohm coils, so you really need an amp. Maybe one of those modern amps, those digital ones, which I don't really care for, but whatever. You could get like a good 2,000 watt amp and bridge it down to 2 ohms mono. Then, that would really come alive. But yeah, I'm not using anything like that in either of these cars. These are more SQ setups with a lot lower power because they don't need crazy power. But anyways, all right, I've rambled enough. Let me know if you guys want to see more of this stuff. I plan on documenting as much of this install as I can. And I know I'm just videotaping this one. Videotape. Yeah, I put a VHS thing in my phone here. But basically, I'm just recording with my Google Pixel 3 right now. But I still have my nice camcorder. I could probably set that up with a tripod, maybe do some time-lapse stuff when I get into the really tearing it out and reinstalling. If you guys want to see this kind of stuff, let me know. And if you guys are interested in purchasing anything, hopefully in the next few months I'll get my business set up and actually have a website. And you guys, I'll show you what I got and let me know if you're interested. So I definitely plan on doing some testing videos, verifying things, that kind of stuff. And I'd love to take you guys along. So as always, thanks for watching, and go ahead and like and subscribe. Again, there might be different channels coming soon, at least one new one. I'm not sure, because it's not all about arcade games anymore. I mean, I love those and I still do collect, but there's a lot more stuff I'm into than that as well. So anyways, alrighty, have a good one guys, God bless, and I'll see you later.